Dayanamo Jagat Samsare Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dvayatoro Mure Tuma Vinate Dayanamo Jagat Samsare Patita Pavana Hetu Tavavatara Mosama Patita Prabhu Napaime Rama Papa Prabhu Nishananda Premananda Baba Lokanatoro Ali Baruki Aha Prabhu Nishananda Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatika Acharya. Also Teta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Savaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidvaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govardhana Sayam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari. All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let me read the translation. You could turn the light over there because it'll give more light on me for the internet. All the lights. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's good. So we'll read the translation. My dear Lord, please be merciful to me, because who could be more merciful than your Lordship within these three worlds? Your incarnation is just to reclaim the conditioned fallen souls, but I assure you that you will not find a more fallen soul than me. My dear Lord Nityananda, you are always joyful in spiritual bliss. Since you always appear very happy, I have come to you because I am most unhappy. If you kindly put your glance over me, I may also become happy. My dear Advaita Prabhu, husband of Sita, you are so kind. Please be kind to me. If you are kind to me naturally, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda will also be kind to me. I pray for the mercy of Sarup Damodar, the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Bhakta Raghunath Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Lokanath Prabhu. I, Narottam Das, pray to the merciful Srinivasa Acharya, and I always desire the company of Ramachandra. So today is the glorious appearance day of Advaita Acharya. So we'll be speaking about Advaita Acharya. And we have a few people watching on the internet. So, Om Gana Tinadanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chaksu Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So, as far as Advaita Acharya is a member of the Panchatattva. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. You coming? So, that means Panchatattva. Tattva means like something that is an eternal truth that always continues to exist. Tattva. So, Panchatattva means the five eternal truths. And the five eternal truths are Vishnu Tattva, Jiva Tattva, and Shakti Tattva. You understand? Shakti. So, of the Jiva Tattva category, there's Srivas Thakur, who's Nardamuni. Of the Vishnu Tattva category, there's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Acharya. And of the Shakti Tattva, there's Gadadhar, who's considered to be an incarnation of Srimati Radharani. So you got those three tattvas there in the Panchatattva. So as far as Advaita Acharya, he is Vishnu Tattva, and it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that he is Mahavishnu and also what's called Sadashiva. Now the interesting thing about Lord Shiva in this world is described as an expansion of Krishna, just like yogurt is described in relationship to milk. So in other words, it's not quite Krishna, he can't become Krishna, whereas Krishna can manifest Shiva, Shiva cannot manifest Krishna. You understand? So but as far as Sadashiva is concerned, Sadashiva is actually a Vishnu form in the spiritual world, from whom the Shiva in this material world expands. So Sadashiva is in the spiritual world. And of course Mahavishnu is also Vishnu Tattva, obviously, that's why he's called Mahavishnu. So he appears in Krishna's pastimes in many different forms. In the pastimes here in Braj, Advaita Acharya appears as a coward boy, and also he appears as the Dikpala. Dikpala means the guardian of the holy cow. Like today we saw Chakaleshwar Mahadev, you remember that? Right in the middle of the Manasi Ganga area. So he's the guardian of the Manasi Ganga area, and when we go, of course we didn't see today, but when we do the Radhakund Parikrama, there's Kundeshwara Mahadev, who is the guardian of Radhakund. And then in Braj, or Vrindavan, there's Gopishwara Mahadev. Gopishwara Mahadev is actually a girl, expansion of lordship. And he guards the Vrindavan area, the town of Vrindavan. So, of course he's called Advaita because Advaita means not to. Yeah, Advaita means to, Advaita means not to. So that means he is exactly the same as Vishnu, Advaita, like that. So he appeared, there's different stories about Advaita Acharya. Some say that he appeared in Srihata, because this is in Bengal, both places, and the other people say he appeared in Shantipur. His father was named Kubera Pandit. His father was actually an incarnation of the demigod, Kubera, who was actually a follower of Lord Shiva. Kubera is actually the head of the Yakshas, not Rakshasas, but the Yakshas. And his mother was named Naba, and he appeared in a Barendra Brahmana family. And he appeared in the year, Western year, 1433. That's before Lord Chaitanya. And he left this world in 1558. And so it's 125 years he was on the planet for. And before he was born, his mother heard a divine voice, not like the voices we hear outside, these are not divine, predicting that he is going to appear. And in her dream, she saw a deity named Harihara. I don't know if you've ever seen that deity. If you go to Mayapur, you will go to Mayapur, you'll see that deity. Harihara means like half Hari and half Lord Shiva. It's a deity like that. And as soon as he was born, his parents called him Lotus-eyed. And that means Kamalaksha, was actually his name. So later on, he got married. And when he got married, he had 2 wives. That time it was all right. Now it's not a good idea. Actually, Prabhupada said, quoting from the Bhagavatam, that in Kali Yuga, man is considered a great hero if he can maintain 1 wife. There was this person, devotee, in the Bhagavatam, Chitraketu, described he had 10 million wives. Did you ever hear the story?
Heard about Chitraketu, but didn't know about.
10 million, that's a lot. That's more than the population of practically a lot of countries, isn't it? More than the population of North Carolina, okay? New Zealand, more than the population of New Zealand, right?
Close to Bolivia's population.
Yeah, close to Bolivia's population. So anyway, but he was quite frustrated because he couldn't have any children. This particular, not Advaita Acharya, we're talking about Chitraketu right now. Chitraketu had 1 son eventually, and he was killed by the other 999,999 wives. So the moral of the story is just 1 wife. Because practically every story when you have in the Bhagavatam and the Vedic literatures where there's several wives, there's problems. Just like Dasarath, Kaikeyi, the problems there. And I mean, there's so many stories in the Vedic literatures where, what's that? Dhruva Maharaj and Niti and Suruchi, yeah, so many stories. Better just one or none. You got a choice. So, anyway, so he had, Advaita Acharya had 6 sons, but the interesting thing about his 6 sons is 3 were not devotees, were like demons. I don't know, demon, but they weren't Krishna conscious, and 3 were devotees. And so he rejected the 3 sons who were actually demons. Well, I don't want to say demons, but not devotees. I hate to say demons. Krishna also had a son who was a demon, and Krishna had to kill him. You know that story?
Yes.
Bhaumasura. Krishna was son by the earth planet.
What's his other name?
What?
He has an other name as well.
Bhaumasura. Yeah, there's another I don't remember right now. Anyways, Bhaumasura, the earth asura. And so Advaita Acharya did many wonderful things when he was young. One thing is that he, actually his wife's names I forgot to mention, was Sita, who was Yogamaya, and Sri, who was an expansion of Yogamaya. There was 2 wives. And so when Advaita Acharya was young, the son of a king, a particular king, actually started to die, and he revived the son of this king. It was at a Kali temple. And then he offered obeisances to Kali, and the demons split, not the demon, sorry, the deity split into 1,000 pieces. So it's described that whenever Advaita Acharya would offer obeisances to a deity, if the deity wasn't there, the deity would explode. So, anyway, there's some stories that Jayapataka Maharaj says, and I've never read those stories about how he would offer obeisances to a little kid, and it didn't happen to be the Supreme Personality of God, and the kid would die, but I haven't read those stories. That's not in any of the authorized biographies. So anyway, so one time when he was young, to show other miracles, his teacher asked him to get some lotus flowers from a lake, and the lake was filled with snakes and thorns, and he just like walked on the water and got the lotus flower. So he showed many, many miracles. Actually, some more devotees coming. They're all on Indian Standard Time. That's a problem. We got to train everybody up. So you come into class. We start at 5. Where's everybody else? We don't follow Indian Standard Time here. So, okay, big place for everybody. Okay, so welcome. So after he went to Gaya on pilgrimage, this is a whole history of him. And then there he met Madhavendra Puri, who became the spiritual master. Madhavendra Puri, as we mentioned today, is the spiritual master of Ishwara Puri, who was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he arrived, this is very interesting because this predates the whole story that you know about Madan Mohan and Vrindavan. You know, Madan Mohan, everybody knows the Sanatana Goswami, Madan Mohan story? No.
It was on a
Anyway, so this predates the story. So it was actually Advaita Acharya who discovered Madan Mohan. And it was named Madan Gopal at that time. And then after he'd left Vrindavan, he gave him to a Brahmin family, Chobe Brahmin family. And then you know the rest of the story, that this Brahmin family, oh, here's the rest of it, there's somebody. Haribol. That's good. You were just watching me online.
I was. I didn't know. Kishori told me 6:30, and I just said to those guys, "Oh my gosh."
Kishori doesn't know anything.
I think she texted me so many times.
She thinks she knows everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the
She knows
problem.
a lot.
even Dharmraj said 5:30.
Really?
I told him 5 o'clock.
No, he doesn't know. He said 5. Okay, so we got it.
Oh, it was 5.
Yeah, I said 5. Anyway, from now on, it's 5. It's because we're talking about Advaita Acharya today. It's his appearance day. He's got a lot of nice new devotees. Not new, but devotees that have just come. So Advaita Acharya, anyway, so he discovered Madan Gopal, and Madan Gopal he gave it to a Chobe family in Mathura, and later on, then then later on Sanatana Goswami was given that deity by that family, and Sanatana Goswami didn't. Actually, well, here's the whole story. Sanatana Goswami went to Mathura, and he saw the deity, and the deity was being treated just like the son of the couple. And they sat the deity at the dinner table like that, and the other son was playing marbles with the deity, like they do in here. And then Advaita Acharya, not Advaita Acharya, Sanatana Goswami at this point, he said, therefore, this is not proper worship of the deity. You should put the deity on the altar. Then Sanatana Goswami had a dream, and the deity chastised him. He said, you spoiled all my fun. I made fun. Now I just have to sit on this altar all the time. So now you have to take care of me. And Sanatana Goswami said, I can't. And then this Brahmin family in Mathura, the man had a dream, and he was told to bring the deity to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami said, how am I going to take care of you? And I have so much to do. I have writings to do. I have discovering the holy places in Vrindavan. And then the deity said, I'll just eat whatever you offer me. And so he hung the deity from the tree. And then one day the deity asked for salt. And Sanatana Goswami said, you're asking for salt, and I'm really busy. I got too many things to do. So if you want salt, you got to get it for yourself. So eventually, what happened is a salt barge was stuck in the Yamuna, and the owner or the captain came up, and he actually went to Sanatana Goswami and said, please help me. And Sanatana Goswami said, just pray to Madan Gopal. And so he prayed, and then there was a rainstorm, and the boat was freed. And then Madan Gopal became known as Madan Mohan, anyway. So, that's the story. So that's how Advaita Acharya fits into this whole story, because he was the one who discovered the deity and gave the deity to this Brahmin family in Mathura. So Advaita Acharya eventually found this old book called the Ananta Samhita, and in this book he heard about the description of Gauranga, and then he decided to pray. Hare Krishna. Good to see you. Oh. We got all these devotees just on time. So Hare Krishna. Devotees from Fiji. Haribol. So, okay. So he decided to pray to Krishna that he would appear, because he saw the degraded position of everyone in Kali Yuga. And so later on we'll talk about how he prayed to Krishna to appear. And he actually said to Krishna that you can't just send an expansion now, you've got to come yourself. This is serious business, this Kali Yuga. So, anyway, so we'll get to that point in a second. So he goes to Shantipur, and he has an argument with another Digvijaya, which is a person who goes around arguing with people, and gives him initiation. And then we have the pastimes with Haridas Thakur, and he recognized, Advaita Acharya recognized that Haridas Thakur was actually a great devotee. He had no misunderstanding, no caste distinction in his consciousness. He understood that one should understand who is a devotee and who is a great soul by the qualities rather than by the birth. So he honored Haridas Thakur by giving him the Shraddha plate. And of course in Fiji you call it the Shrad, because you don't pronounce Sanskrit properly. But it's Shraddha. Yeah. So anyway, so by giving him the plate when he did the Shraddha ceremony, because that's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to give the best of the brahmanas the plate, feed them. And there's a whole procedure too. Actually, during that procedure, you switch your brahman thread from one side of the body to the other. Did you ever see that? No. Anyway, it's a very complicated procedure. So anyway, so Haridas Thakur took the prasadam. And he said, Haridas Thakur actually said to Advaita Acharya, how can you give it to me? I'm just from a lecture family, a Muslim family. And then Advaita Acharya verified what he was saying by quoting Shastra, that actually one who chants the holy names, Aho Bataswat Pachato Goriyan, Jajiva Gre Vartate Namatubhyam. Ate Pusta Pusta Huber Sharsna Arya, Brahmanuchar Nama Granante Yete. How wonderful it is, that's quote. How wonderful it is that if someone chants the holy name, that he's actually understood to have performed all the preliminary Vedic rituals and come to the platform of being a Brahmin. So, then Advaita Acharya, this is more or less step by step in Advaita Acharya's life, historical. He goes back to Navadvip and he meets Madhavendra Puri and takes initiation from him. And Madhavendra Puri left this world in Ramuna. Ramuna is where the Shirachara Gopinath deity is. Anyone been there? Some of you been there. Mayapur, you were there with me. Then he goes back to Navadvip and opens up a Sanskrit school. And he initiates Jagannath Mishra and Sachi. Wow, some new information. And he gives them the 4-syllable Gopal mantra. And at this point, his compassion becomes more and more manifest after seeing the plight of all the conditioned souls and the degradation in the age of Kali. And he begins to cry out to Krishna and worships Krishna with the Ganges and Tulsi leaves. And as he's performing this worship and hearing Krishna Katha every day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's elder brother starts to visit Advaita Acharya. His elder brother's name is Visvarupa. And he goes daily to hear Krishna Katha. Then something really shocking happens in Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi's house, is that Visvarupa takes sannyas. And the reason he takes sannyas is not Advaita Acharya's fault, is that Visvarupa hears his parents planning his marriage. Oh.
What time did you start?
I said 5. This is my mother. Mother Urmila.
Sorry, I thought it was...
She used to take care of me when I was a baby.
In another life.
No, I hope not. Oh my God. That would be too much. See, I think some of you know Mother Urmila, right? She's appeared in various places.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you started at 5.
5.
Forget I came in.
Okay. That's hard. So, anyway, getting back to Advaita Acharya's story. So Visvarupa hears his parents talking about getting him married. He's thinking, what girl should we marry? And he says, she'd be good. She'd be good. Visvarupa says, oh my God. And he leaves in the middle of the night and, goes away. And of course the parents are completely bereft. There's other things that happen, like they deny Nimai any schooling after that particular point because they're afraid that if Nimai gets too educated in the facts about this mature world, that everything's temporary, you can't own anything, then Nimai's going to want to take, it's an inside joke, but Nimai's going to want to take sannyas too. But that's not really the story about Advaita Acharya. The story about Advaita Acharya is that Sachi Mata blames Advaita Acharya for encouraging Visvarupa to take sannyas. So later on, when Lord Chaitanya is giving love of God to everybody, it was just like awarding love of God. You'll get love of God, you'll get love of God. They said, what about Sachi Mata? And Lord Chaitanya says, no. And everyone says, what? She's your mother. And Lord Chaitanya says, no, she committed a great offense against Advaita Acharya. And that great offense is she actually accused Advaita Acharya of being Dvaita, means like two-faced, like not telling the truth. She said, because previously she said, that Advaita is not Advaita, he's Dvaita. And so she didn't, at that point, she didn't get love of God. And then, when Advaita Acharya heard this, he was just like completely let's see, in anxiety. And everyone was thinking, how can the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead not get pure love of God? And then she dove for his lotus feet, touched his feet, and she got pure love of God. So that shows the danger of committing offenses, even something so light like that. Like if you say about a pure devotee, he's just cheating. Oh, you're finished. Especially here in Braj, if one offends any of the residents of Braj, that's why it says that one shouldn't spend more than 2 weeks at a time in the holy Dham, because one begins to see the residents of Braj as ordinary people. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that when he says, when will I be satisfied by taking the remnants of the untouchables who live in the holy Dham? There he's referring to Navadvip, but he says, when will I be satisfied? In other words, taking the remnants of the untouchables. So we don't really understand who these people are in Braj and how dear they are to Krishna. They know Krishna. Krishna's like their friend. For the rest of us, Krishna is God. And we pray to Krishna every day, please, my dear Lord Krishna, send me money, send me. But the residents of Braj, they're just saying, hey, buddy, That's how close they are to Krishna, isn't it? They're just born with Krishna. It's like that Jobi Brahmin family, they're just like, that's their relationship with Krishna. They play marbles with him. Anyway, so Sachi is forgiven. And then one day, another thing happened. Of course, Advaita Acharya joins Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the performance of the Sankirtan when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes initiation from Ishwara Puri. But one day, someone asked Advaita Acharya, who is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master? And he answers, of course, Keshava Bharati. And Keshava Bharati is, of course, the spiritual master who Lord Chaitanya took sannyas from. And Achyutananda, who is Advaita Acharya's son, chastises his father. He says, how can you say that Lord Chaitanya has a spiritual master? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Advaita Acharya got very happy with his son. And then, another story is, Advaita Acharya one time got very upset, and he was continually upset that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would respect him, because he was an elderly person. So he was thinking, I don't want to be respected by the Supreme Personality of God. Of course, they're both the Supreme Personality of God, but this is the Lord's Leela, where the Lord expands in different ways and has different interactions with his expansions. For example, you have that story about Mahavishnu when he wanted to see Krishna. And he made that trick of stealing the Brahmin sons, and finally, in order to save Arjuna, Krishna had to take his chariot with Arjuna and go to see Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu said, I just did this so he could see you. Which is kind of funny. It's like the same person saying, I made a trick so I could see myself. And there's other instances too. I mean, for example, let's see, we're here at Govardhana. And Govardhana is known as Krishna, but he's also Haridas Varya. He's actually the best devotee of Krishna. How is that possible? Well, in the same way that Balaram Nityananda is always serving Krishna, right? It's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavad that Balaram serves as, or Nityananda, Balaram serves as Krishna's Brahman thread, Singasana, the temple. These are all expansions of Balaram. So, in other words, Balaram is always serving Krishna, and also we have Lakshman, who is non-different than Ram, always serving Ram, right? And even doing things he doesn't want to do because Ram asked him to do it. But Krishna never does things that he doesn't want to do because Balaram asks him to do it. Can anyone think of an instance of that? What did Balaram ask Krishna to do or make an arrangement for that Krishna disagreed with?
Wanted Duryodhana to marry.
Marries Subhadra.
Yeah.
Duryodhana. was supposed to marry Subhadra, and Krishna didn't agree with it. And instead he disobeyed his brother's desire. You know, he interfered with his brother's desire for a higher purpose. Anyway, Krishna didn't follow etiquette. Krishna didn't follow the law. And as I often say, Krishna is a pretty bad example for us to follow. You know, it's funny, like Krishna says, yad yada charati shreshtas tata deveta rojanaha. As a great person acts, that all the world should follow, but Krishna didn't follow it himself, isn't it? Where the other incarnations or appearances or avatars generally did. I mean, you have Ram, he was Maryada Purushottam. He was the perfect example of etiquette, manners, morality. Whereas Krishna's example, of course, Krishna was a perfect moralist too, because he never danced with any other person's wives. They were all his wives in many ways, because they all belonged to him, first of all, and also he married them all. Literally, he married them all when Lord Brahma had stole all the cowherd boys and the calves. That was the year they got married, because Krishna had expanded all the cowherd boys and calves. So Krishna never does anything wrong, but you just have to read between the lines to figure out why Krishna, or how Krishna doesn't do anything wrong. You really have to know the Tattva, the Sananta, to understand that. But still, I mean, Krishna's example is terrible for us, isn't it? I mean, it's just not, I mean, you look at it. Well, his example of being God is great, but not for us to follow, isn't it? I mean, just come on. Unless you can lift Govardhana Hill, unless you can drink an ocean of poison, which you can't because you're not God. Anyway, so one day, Advaita Acharya had an idea. How can I get Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give up his respectful attitude towards me and even chastise me? So he began to teach this thing called the Yoga Vasishta, which has some impersonal philosophy in it, just to get Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu angry. So he was teaching it, and when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about it, he grabbed Lord Nityananda and said, let's go to see Advaita Acharya. And on the way to see Advaita Acharya, they stopped at the house of a Shakta, who was so-called sannyasi, and took what they thought was prasadam, probably wasn't. And then after taking prasadam, the Shakta asked them if they wanted any happiness as a drink. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being quite an innocent chap, didn't know what happiness meant. And happiness actually means booze. You know what booze is? No, you don't. Booze means liquor. And so Lord Chaitanya said, what is this happiness? And Lord Nityananda, being a man of this world, understood. Not that Lord Nityananda ever drank liquor, but he knew, you know, he was quite older and he was quite experienced. And Lord Nityananda said, it's liquor. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh my God. And they both jumped in the Ganges and swam all the way up to Shantipur to see Advaita Acharya. So when they got to see Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu basically grabbed him, threw him to the ground, and started pummeling him. And then Advaita Acharya's wife, Sita Devi, she said, you're going to kill the old man. And he said, I don't care, he's been teaching this nonsense. And then Advaita Acharya started exhibiting symptoms of ecstasy. Finally, I've gotten chastised by Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya understood what was happening. They lived happily ever after. Anyway, so... and then, okay, another story. Then when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, actually the first thing he did was going to Advaita Acharya's house, but by trick, because Lord Nityananda was with him, and Lord Nityananda told them they were going to Vrindavan, and actually they ended up at the bank of the Ganges, which Lord Nityananda said was the Yamuna, and Lord Chaitanya jumped in And it wasn't a lie, because the Yamuna flows with the Ganges. After the Triveni, you have the three rivers, the Saraswati, Yamuna, and the Ganges together. So it wasn't a lie. And Lord Chaitanya jumped in, and then he saw Advaita Acharya with some new garments for him on a boat. And he said, "How did you get to Vrindavan?" And then Advaita Acharya revealed it was actually Shantipur. And so, then, when they got to Advaita Acharya's house, then Advaita Acharya and Sita, they were feeding Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prasad and also Lord Nityananda Prasad. And Lord Nityananda complained that, I've been fasting for 3 days. I've been fasting for 3 days, and this is not even a morsel to break my fast. And so then basically there was a fight between Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya called Lord Nityananda reject Paramahamsa. And Lord Nityananda threw prasad. Some of the rice grains fell on the body of Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya started dancing in ecstasy, and they said, by coming in contact with this prasad, I've become a madman like this Lord Nityananda. Wonderful story. Another story about Advaita Acharya was in Jagannath Puri. Gopal, who was one of Advaita Acharya's sons, one of the 3 good sons, fainted. And Lord Chaitanya said to him, get up, and he wouldn't get up. And finally, Lord Chaitanya began to tell him to chant and dance, and he got up and he started chanting and dancing in ecstasy. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revived Advaita Acharya's son. Let's see other stories. Another story about Advaita Acharya is that this devotee, whose name was Kamalakanta Vishwas, was very concerned that Advaita Acharya was owing money to King Prataparudra. So this Kamalakanta Vishwas tried to beg money from King Prataparudra to pay the debt. And this Kamalakanta Vishwas was chastised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying, that how can you say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead owes money? Because he owns everything. How can he owe money to anyone? Then later on, during the Gundicha pastimes, Gundicha is the temple that represents Braj in Jagannath Puri, when Lord Jagannath goes there with his devotees. Then the devotees manifest a different mood than they ordinarily manifest. Like in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshiped Lord Jagannath in a very much awe-reverent mood. But when he gets to the Gundicha temple, he starts acting just like a kid. So when they got to the Gundicha temple, they have pastimes, swimming pastimes in different lakes, like the Indradunya Lake, and they were they were splashing each other, imitating frogs. These are grown men, or they're old enough to be grandfathers or great-grandfathers there. They were imitating frogs, and they paired off to have water fights. Remember, this is actually Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Advaita Acharya is old enough to be his grandfather or great-grandfather. And so, naturally, Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya, they were fighting with each other. And Lord Nityananda kept splashing him with water in the face of Advaita Acharya. He couldn't see anything. And Advaita called him some really bad names. I'm sure they weren't 4-letter words, but I mean some bad names. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for Advaita Acharya and said, as your expansion, Ananta Shesh, or one of my expansions, Ananta Shesh, you should help me float in this lake. So Advaita Acharya actually assumed Ananta Shesh's form, or he lay there and Lord Chaitanya lay on top of him, and they were floating in the lake like that. So finally, it was Advaita Acharya who gave the message to Lord Chaitanya to leave this material world when it was time to leave. And this message is as follows. This message was given to Lord through Jagannath, to the Lord through Jagannanda Pandit. And the message is as follows. Please inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is acting like a madman, that everyone here has become mad like him. Inform him also that in the marketplace, rice is no longer in demand. Further tell him that those now mad in ecstatic love are no longer interested in the material world. Also tell Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one who has also become a madman in ecstatic love, Advaita Prabhu, has spoken these words. So this was a message to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that it's time to leave this world, because Advaita Acharya had brought him into this world. At least that's the exoteric reason, the apparent reason why Lord Chaitanya appeared. One of the exoteric reasons. And then Advaita Acharya wanted to send him away. It was time to end his pastimes. So, this is a quote from the Anchalila, 19th chapter. After hearing the equivocal sonnet by Advaita Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quietly smiled. That is his order. Then he fell silent. Although he knew the secret, Swarup Damodar Goswami inquired from the Lord, what is the meaning of this sonnet? I could not understand it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Advaita Acharya is a great worshipper of the Lord and is very expert in the regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic literatures. Advaita Acharya invites the Lord to come and be worshipped, and to perform the worship he keeps the deity for some time. After the worship is completed, he sends the deity somewhere else. I do not know the meaning of this sonnet, nor do I know what is in Advaita Prabhu's mind. Advaita Acharya is a great mystic. No one can understand him. He is expert in writing sonnets that even I myself cannot understand. So then after that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited extreme symptoms of ecstasy, and we know eventually he entered the Tota Gopinath temple and left this world. And then Advaita Acharya disappeared, expressing pain how people were not properly respecting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So all the Vaishnavas came and did a kirtan for Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya kept crying, where is my Gauranga? Where is my Gauranga? Where is my Gauranga? Here he is. And then he entered the temple. This was another Madan Gopal temple. This temple was in Shantipur. So he entered the temple of Madan Gopal in Shantipur, and he disappeared. And that's how Advaita Acharya left this material world. So, there's some of the stories about Advaita Acharya. Anybody have any questions about Advaita Acharya? So today's his appearance day.
I've heard that Advaita Acharya is a good person to pray to invite Krishna to your heart.
Yes. Yes, Advaita Acharya is a very good person to pray to, because he invited Krishna to come down by offering water and tulsi leaves to the Ganges and to the Shalaram Shila. So we should pray to Advaita Acharya today to help us. So, any questions? Yes.
I was just thinking about God having a debt. You know, the Balaji deity is supposed to be in debt for his wedding,
Yeah,
and that's why everybody gives money to the temple there
yeah,
to pay his wedding debt.
that's true. That happens sometimes. It's in debt to Kubera.
Yeah, so there must be some Leela about it.
That's a
God
Leela.
having a debt.
But,
Do we know anything more about Advaita Acharya's debt?
no, I don't know anything more about the debt, except that Lord Chaitanya chastised Kamalakanta Vishwas about it. Probably because Kamalakanta Vishwas had the wrong consciousness, that he was seeing Advaita Acharya as an ordinary person. Whereas the debt of Balaji is just like, of course that's a debt to Kuvera, but it's just like, it's not just an ordinary debt. It's the debt so he could marry Maya Sita. You all know the story? No, you don't know the story? Okay, I'll tell that story. Once upon a time, Lord Ramachandra was on the planet, and what happened is that so the real Sita would not be kidnapped by Ravan. There was a Maya Sita, or imitation Sita. And so the whole time that Sita, or Maya Sita, was taken by Ravan and kept in the Ashok Grove, she kept chanting Ram's name. And so Ram's name was very powerful, and she was worshiping Ram, and dedicated to Ram and refusing the advances of Ravan. So then finally she sees Ram at the end, or she can't come close to Ram. Actually, Ram says, don't come close to me, lady. I saved you. I did my duty, and now just go wherever you want. And nobody understood what he was saying, or why he was saying that, you know. Come on. She's your wife. She was chaste. And he just said, you know, just go whatever you want. I did my duty. I saved you because it was my duty as a Kshatriya. That's pretty heavy for a man to say to his wife. And then eventually, of course, that was the Maya Sita, not the real Sita. Of course, then Lakshman made the fire. Maya Sita entered the fire. Agni came out with the real Sita, and Ram and Sita were reunited. However, during that whole time, Maya Sita completely became absorbed in actual love of Lord Ramchandra. And she'd say to Lord Ramchandra, you know, you may have your wife back, honey, whatever. But I want to marry you too. And then Lord Ramchandra said, I got news for you, Ekapatni Vrata. I've taken a vow only to have one wife. But if you're a little patient, you know, after a few million years, or whatever, I don't remember how long it is, then I will marry you. Okay, so there's Maya Sita there. So then what happens is that once upon a time, Lord Vishnu is there in the spiritual world, and there's this sage, Brigamuni, who is testing the three primary deities of this world, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. And he tests Brahma by not offering him respect, Shiva by saying some really harsh words, you know, you just hang around the crematorium, stay away from me, whatever. And Brahma gets angry in his mind, but he doesn't really get into it. Shiva gets ready to do something, Parvati stops him. And so he understands that Brahma and Shiva are not actually situated completely in Shuddha Sattva. So he's looking for a deity that's completely situated in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So then finally he goes to Lord Vishnu, and he does the ultimate offense. He kicks Lord Vishnu in the chest. Later on he became a hunter because of that, but that's a different story in the Bhagavatam. And so Lord Vishnu says, I apologize for having a hard chest. That's tolerance, isn't it? Someone kicks you in the chest. Normally people want vengeance, retribution. When someone does something to you, you really want to see them suffer, don't you? Ha ha, you offended me. Look, oh, they got cancer. I've seen people do things like that, isn't it? I knew something, Krishna would do something to them. Isn't it? That's very common, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very common. Krishna punished them hard. I feel real good about it. And so, anyway, so getting on with the story. So Vishnu, he just tolerated me. He just said, you know, forgive me for having a hard chest. And Lakshmi thought, he's just too tolerant for me. And she was so upset. I mean, obviously, that's the right thing. That if a person you love has been offended, you should get angry. If you've been offended, who cares? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me, right? So that's it. That's something we used to chant when I was young, along with other things. But so anyway, so then Lakshmi gets really upset and said, I can't stand this anymore. I gotta get away. And so she comes down to the Earth planet. And Vishnu has no money then. Lakshmi's gone away. Now, of course, we understand, you know, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurasham Tamam. I mean, there's unlimited Lakshmis. This is a pastime. So anyway, so Vishnu comes down to the Earth planet to look for Lakshmi. Where's my money? Where's my... Not really. Where's our Lakshmi? Like devotees always... It's interesting, devotees always call money Lakshmi, which it is. I mean, it's a manifestation. But I remember we were on Sankirtan. We would count the money at night. Don't let it touch the ground. You know? This is Lakshmi. Even though it has a picture of some malecha on it. You know? I mean, in one sense, it's good to respect because the manifestation. It's anyway. But another thing that gold is called in this world is like a man with jaundice has yellow stool, isn't it? So anyway, that's another story. So Lakshmi goes away, and Vishnu is looking. You know, oh my God, what am I going to do without Lakshmi now? No one to cook for me or do the laundry, or I don't know. I don't know what. But but he's feeling bereft of her association, and he starts looking all over the Earth planet. But remember, he's poor. He's a poor man now. He's not like Vishnu with all his wealth and everything like that. I mean, he is, but it's a pastime. So he's going all over the Earth. Oh, where's my Lakshmi? Where's my love? Like a man bereft of his wife. You know, where has she gone? And then he runs into this other girl who was actually Mayasita, and he falls in love with her. But there's a big problem. She's from a very rich family, like a kingly family. And, you know, how's this poor guy going to marry? Whoops, confirmed. I guess Vishnu got angry. So how is this poor man, because I think it's just a man, how's this poor man going to get married to my daughter? He doesn't have a house, he doesn't have any money. So then he goes and borrows some land, or gets some land from Varahadev. You know that part of the story? Oh no, very few people know this part of the story. He goes to Varahadev, who owns this tract of land in Tirupati. And he says, can I use your land? And he says, well, you got to build a house too. So then he goes to Kuvera and says, can I borrow some money from you to build a house? And Kuvera wants to charge like 1,000% a day or something, interest rate. It's called usury, you know, anyway. So that's confirmed. So he wants to charge all this money as interest. Actually, in Fiji, one of our devotees was charging 20-something% a month interest when he would lend money.
Wow.
Did you know that?
A devotee was doing this?
Yeah. Actually, he was, anyway, famous devotee. I'm not going to mention his name. Not any of these devotees. Yeah, that's what people do that. It's called a loan shark. So he was like that. And he became very rich. So, anyway, so he agrees. They get married. You have this big, like marriage, vivaha. Everybody's happy. He's going with his new bride, get ready for his honeymoon. And they're walking away, just so happy, getting married, dressed up like a prince, like how people do. And who do they run into? With the real Lakshmi. And the real Lakshmi says, what are you doing with my husband? And Maya Lakshmi, Mayasita, says, what do you mean? He's my husband. And so the two girls, they really go at it after each other, my husband, my husband. In the meantime, Lord Vishnu is thinking, what did I get myself into? He said, I don't want to be around these two ladies just arguing. And he thinks, I got to get out of here. So his method of getting out of there is to turn himself into a deity. So he all of a sudden he becomes this deity, Venkateshwara, Balaji. And he's standing there. And the two ladies look around, where's her husband? And there's the deity. And they go, oh my God, what happened to my husband? And they say, well, we got to join him. And they both turn themselves into deities, Shri and Bhu. Bhu Devi and Sri Devi. Sri Devi is Lakshmi, Bhu Devi is Bhumi or Mayasita. And that's the story. Like that. Maya Caesar. It's interesting. So, is that a new story for anybody? You heard that story before, didn't you?
Yeah.
You heard that story before?
So he never got to pay back his debt because he became a devotee.
Oh, yeah, that's the point. He never got to, well, the devotees are helping him pay back his debt. So every time you go, you have to give more money, so that Balaji can pay.
Maharaj, what's the name?
That's why you have to see Varahadev first. The standard is that before you see Balaji, you have to go to the Varahadev temple.
Was the wife's name Padma something?
Padmavati. Yeah, Padmavati. And so, yeah, you have to go to the Varahadev temple and you offer obeisances and get permission. Then you go to see Balaji. And then you got to give something. The hundis there are like as tall as this. And they're like shaped like this, with cloth. And you just like drop things in, like gold coins and everything. They keep, when you go into the temple, there's actually glass on the money counting rooms. You can walk by them and see the people counting the money. And this is a story I love to tell. The one man, you heard me tell the story before. One man, he wanted to give a gold bar to Balaji, but he thought, let my son get the benefit. So it was his little son. And he has his son hold the gold bar over the hundi. His son falls into the hundi. And then he goes to the priest and says, can I have my son back? And they say, no, you get anything you give to Balaji, you can't take back. So the son actually, it's a true story, the son actually becomes one of the pujaris there. And he serves Balaji with his whole life. It's nice, isn't it? So anyone who wants to get rid of their son, I don't think they would accept anyone's wife though, but anyway. No, they don't have the women pujaris.
You get a few husbands,
You get a husband. Let's do that with husbands.
There are going to be weddings from mid-December to mid-January.
What's what? Yeah.
In India?
Yeah.
Because that's when Srinivas and
But
Padmavati
when we get married, yeah. It's also after Chaturmasha, there's this whole superstition you're not supposed to get married during Chaturmasha, although many people do. I mean, people have all these superstitions. There's this one lady in a certain country, we're not going to mention who it is, some of you may know her, that when I go to the country, she's supposed to take initiation, but it happens to be Pita Pax or Degapati. You know, some of you may know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah, those of you from New Zealand know who I'm talking about. She just said, oh, it's Pita Pax. Can't get initiated. When you worship the Pitris, or where you worship the demigods. Or it's Chaturmasha. There's always an excuse. I think it's mainly her husband doesn't want to take initiation. It's a good excuse. Oh, it's Saturday. I'm not supposed to get initiated on Saturday because Saturn. Shani, yeah. I'm not supposed to get initiated. On Monday, there's the moon. Anyway, people have so many excuses. So, all right, any other questions? Or comments? You moved into your house already, or?
Yeah, we thought 6 o'clock, so then.
Oh.
Just
Oh.
None of us just went to the living room.
Haribol, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Wow, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, we just the tail end of class.
You can have class every day for
Yeah,
so
5 o'clock, yeah. Please take your seat.
I actually have to have a conference call.
Okay,
You can sit here.
say hello to Krishna for me on the conference call.
I don't think it was with Krishna.
Maybe.
Maybe Krishna will join the conference call.
Krishna's always on the conference call. So anyone else? We're just finishing up our class about Advaita Acharya. Anyone else have a question about Advaita Acharya or anything related to anything we said?
We can play it back later.
What's that?
The beauty is we can play it back later.
Oh, you play back later, that's good. Yeah, it's on Facebook. Yeah?
In the calendar, we do see that Advaita Acharya is first, then Nityanand Prabhu's,
Yeah, and then Lord Chaitanya
Lord
Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya. Is it some
Well, they arranged it like that.
relationship or,
Yeah, yeah, Advaita Acharya was older, then Lord Nityananda appeared, but it's on different years, of course. Advaita Acharya came to Navadvip before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and actually, there's a story I didn't tell, that when Sachimata was pregnant, he actually worshipped her womb. He's actually smeared sandalwood paste on her womb and circumambulated her, and Sachimata didn't know what was going on. You know, here's this really old gentleman doing that. It's quite shocking, isn't it? And he offered obeisances and everything like that to Lord Chaitanya and Sachimata's womb. Yeah, so, I mean, somehow or other, he did appear before, Lord Nityananda appeared before. Lord Nityananda, we mentioned today, because we went around Radhakund today, was waiting for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to manifest his pastimes. And of course, Lord Chaitanya manifested his pastimes as the greatest devotee after he took initiation from Ishwara Puri. So Lord Nityananda was waiting in Radhakund, actually on the banks of Radhakund. And he was, there's this sitting place right there at Radhakund for Lord Nityananda. And today we saw the sitting place. And tomorrow we're going to do the tail of Govardhana. The tail means the lower portion of Govardhana. Today we did the upper portion, tomorrow we'll do the lower portion, and the next day we'll do the Radhakund Parikrama.
What time?
2 o'clock in the morning? No. I won't shock you too much. We leave here at 6:30 in the morning. That's when it starts to get light. And the reason we do the parikramas at that time is that it's not crowded, it's really peaceful, and then we're back by breakfast time, which is like 9, 10, whatever it is in the morning. So it's a really peaceful way to do things. Tomorrow is the appearance day, I believe, is it Bhishmastami tomorrow?
Yeah.
The appearance of Bhishma. So we'll tell the story of Bhishma Dev, which is not a broad story, but anyway, we can tell that tomorrow evening. So, yeah, so we'll leave and we'll walk in the lower portion. Can everybody walk with socks or bare feet, or some people gonna have shoes?
I can't walk.
You can't walk.
I know, I've broken my tongue.
Oh, okay. So you'll take a rickshaw or what?
I'll probably stay and everybody
Stay.
else will go and then I'll come tomorrow night.
Okay. So depending on whether everyone wears socks or shoes or barefoot, we take different paths around Govardhana. If everybody can be barefooted or sock-footed, new expression, we take the inner path. And if some people are wearing shoes, then we take the outer path. Shoes or sneakers or something like that, we take the outer path.
you tell us, what should we do?
Well, it depends what people can do.
I think socks is fine.
If everybody can do socks, then
I can do bare feet.
bare feet. You're a real pleasure bus.
I don't know, we just try it, see what happens.
We took barefoot.
You do barefoot?
So it was okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I caution people. Let me turn this off so they don't hear me.